Welcome back to the Gridiron Drive YouTube channel. I'm Anthony Correnti. You can find me on X at Dynasty Drive. That's Peter Trena. You can find him at Pietro Bets. Today we are talking the Buffalo Bills, what we think their season's going to look like, fantasy implications, gambling implications. Comment down below. Let us know what you think is going to happen with the Buffalo Bills season. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of the other teams we get into along the way prior to the season kicking off. All right, let's get right into it. Buffalo Bills, 11-6 in 2023. Like we said, they've won the division 4 years in a row. Pete, take us through the Bills. What are you feeling just as a general kind of state of the union for the Buffalo Bills?
I still like the Bills. I know this is probably the second year in a row that we're trying to bury the Bills, or at least a lot of people were. They had a strong 2023. I mean, they've lost a couple key veterans this year. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. But I think they still remain a contender, a top contender. Their free agency signs, they got MVS, they got Taylor Rapp, so they didn't do anything crazy in free agency. They didn't really have too much money. They drafted Keon Coleman. That should be exciting. But it's really all about Josh Allen, right? I mean, it's like you got Josh Allen. He's one of the, 5 quarterbacks who could really elevate his, receiving corps. I think that, their departures, the safeties, I think those are a little bit overrated. Those guys were mostly on decline. They're going to get guys like Matt Milano and Daquan Jones back, which I think are huge because they were in the middle of the year. They didn't have those guys, and somehow they were able to piece together a respectable enough defense to, keep it going. I think Von Miller, he's like an afterthought now.
Yeah, crazy, right?
It's insane, and it's like I was looking at his PFF grade in the playoffs, and he like really turned it on. So if they can get that Von Miller, it's wheels up for them. Overall, though, I think the Bills are in good shape, but this is an incredibly tough division. So I still can't count them out. Like,
yeah, it's fair. Look, they're kind of like they've won the division 4 years in a row. They're the favorites till they're not, right? Like you said, Josh Allen is one of the best quarterbacks in football. I'm not super worried about them, like you said, losing Diggs and Gabe Davis, because I think they'll have some guys that could plug in there to kind of supplement that talent. And I think Allen's good enough from a passing and rushing standpoint to make it all still go. The defense is interesting. They're a different defense when Matt Milano's out there.
Yes.
Like they are a different defensive unit when Milano is out there kind of creating havoc and roaming in the middle. And you see it every year. They're a weird team because they're good. They're very good. As bad as the Jets have been in the past couple of years, like they've still played the Bills super tough. And that's what's crazy to me about the Bills and the current state of this division. Like as good as the Bills are, they've split with the Jets a couple of years in a row. So now what? Like now with the presumed upgrade at quarterback there and Miami kind of nipping at their heels, like I don't think they're going to run away with the division, but I think I'm not going to, give anybody grief or a hard time if somebody says they're the favorite in the division or that they'll win the division, because the proof is in the pudding. Like they're the ones that have done it.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a bunch of clunkers recently. I mean, last year, I think they had a game against the Giants where I think they scored less than, I think it was like 12 points. It was something ridiculous where it was like a PI at the end of the game gave them the win. And I think that was a DeVito game, if I'm not mistaken. It was like, they've had a couple of clunkers. I'm just looking at their schedule right now. I mean, they've got the second hardest schedule in the league. I don't know, man. It's just Josh Allen, though. It's like, and like their head coach, I don't love him, but I really respect him on defense. Like he makes some goofy decisions in game, but the way he's able to piece a defense together, I really respect. And I think with Josh Allen and a strong defense, they could be atop this division, which is one of the best in the NFL. It's just the AFC in general is insane.
Crazy. The conference is nuts.
It's nuts.
It's nuts, like from a depth perspective, and then it's also like at the top, like, oh, you still have to find a way to get through Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen. Like Never mind everybody else kicking around, Burrow and all those other guys.
Right.
That's crazy. From a fantasy perspective, I mostly like the Bills. Like, Allen is going to go QB1 or QB2 in most leagues. Again, it's like I'm going to take Mahomes till Mahomes stops being Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
I'm not going to butt heads with anybody that insists on taking Josh Allen, 101 in Superflex or as their preferred QB1. I get it from rushing upside and all that good stuff. Personally, I'm going to take the best quarterback in football. But
same.
Yeah. Allen's a certified elite option. The rest of the options there, from a value perspective, I don't really have any problems with it. Like, I was looking for somebody that, like, who's the outlier, right? Like, who in seasonal ADP or who in dynasty ADP is like super out of whack. And everybody's kind of going, I feel like, where they should be going. I thought, okay, maybe James Cook is out of whack, but he's getting drafted as like a fringe RB1, right? And season long, he's getting drafted as the running back 14. He's getting drafted as the running back 14 in Dynasty. That's kind of where I like him. I like him as a guy to flirt with the top 12. The receivers, like Keon Coleman, I let's do it this way, right? Like I said, my player to fade for the Bills is Keon Coleman. That's kind of a hot take. I'm not really fading Keon Coleman,
right?
But just from like seasonal long perspective, I probably wouldn't take Coleman at value where he's like going just outside the top 36. Like, I think he's going in the mid 40s right now. And like, that's fine. It's just in redraft, I'm probably not going to roll the dice on Keon Coleman there as wide receiver 45 because I think it'll take some time. Like, I don't think he's going to come out and set the world on fire week 1. Just because I think there's some other guys that'll come in and they'll divvy it up amongst them, right? Like, I think Shakir will get his, Khalil Shakir will get his. I put my redraft sleeper as Curtis Samuel because Curtis Samuel's like an annoying little, he's going to be involved.
Oh, yeah.
Way more than you think he is. And like, he's been a pretty good football player in some not so great situations at times. And I think he could have a real role on this team.
I heard them talking about Samuel. Like, they basically gave him the playbook, and he's got snaps as a running back. He's got snaps as a tight end, and he's got snaps as a receiver. So he's going to be out there. Like,
think of that usage that he had in Carolina those years ago, right? Like, that's when he really popped, when they did a little bit of everything and kind of gave him, I hate to say that Debo usage because he's not like the same player, but do a little bit of everything with him. Like, you could do some of the gadgety stuff. You could run him as a slot, all that. I think he definitely has some sleeper appeal in redraft. And the guy that I'm going out of the way to target in Dynasty is like, it's not a small name. It's Dalton Kincaid, because tight end, notoriously gross, made less gross recently by guys like Kincaid and Brock Bowers and Kyle Pitts, even though everybody likes to pretend Kyle Pitts is bad at football, and all these young tight ends finally coming in. But Kincaid is a guy that I think can really, really pop, where, flirted with 700 yards last year, really didn't come on till like week 6 or week 7. I think he's going to flirt with 1,000 yards. Like, I think Dalton Kincaid's the guy. I don't think it's Keon Coleman comes in and is the guy from week 1 for Josh Allen. I think it's Dalton Kincaid comes in and is the guy. I don't care if he's a tight end. He's wide receiver 1 in Buffalo for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right, what do we think about the Bills from a gambling perspective?
For those who want to bet on the Bills, they have an interesting opportunity. Early in the season, I would probably fade them early on in the year. I was just peeking at their schedule. Obviously, week 1, they got the Cardinals, but then they go to Miami. They got to play Jacksonville, Baltimore, Texans, Jets. Then they play the Titans. So they got a little murderer's row right there in the beginning of the year. So I would kind of see how they come out. Last year they started off slow as well, and then I think they ran off like 8 straight in a row. Mm-hmm. If you're looking to bet on the Bills, like I said, I would wait until midseason. Then there might be some good numbers you can get. But as they approach the end of the year, they'll offer good value, especially if they hover around 500 like they did last season. That's when I would kind of pull the trigger on the Bills. I like what you were talking about with Kincaid. I was trying to think of some season-long bets that I would recommend, but I don't like to tie up bankroll for 4 months for like a bet that's going to win you just slightly above plus money. Mm-hmm. you could throw an MVP bet out there where it's like plus 800 or something like that.
Sure.
But like, I'm not going to recommend like an over under because I was thinking, oh man, what can I say here for like players? But I like the Dalton Kincaid prop. We were talking about that earlier in the week. His number was like 700 and change. But again, it's only like plus 110. So it's like, if you want to bet Kincaid, his props, I would probably just bet him weekly. And, based on the matchups, because there might be an under that might make sense that week, but I would just try to look for him to bet him weekly. They are the favorites to win this division, but but it looks like some of the other teams are taking money because they opened up at plus 125 and now they're plus 180. Still the favorite, but that's a little bit of a dip, but clearly still the betting public likes the Bills enough. 10.5 wins. That's aggressive, but that's why you're seeing it at plus money there, the over at 130.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a tough schedule, so I think they'll still, they'll be in the playoffs. There's ways to bet this team, but like I said, I would wait till a couple weeks in to really get a good read on them, see how the defense gels, see how those young receivers kind of work with Josh Allen, and then there'll be some interesting opportunities with the Bills because their number's always going to be high. Like you're not going to get any gimme games with them. Like, oh yeah, they're not the favorite. They're going to be favored in most games. So you got to find your opportunities when the right time presents itself.
It's going to be a fun year in the NFL, but in the AFC East especially. Let us know what you think. Who you think is going to win the division. If you're watching on YouTube, throw us a comment down below. Tell us who you think is going to win the division. We'd love to hear from you. So leave a comment on YouTube. Shoot us a DM on Twitter. He's at Pietro Bets. I'm at Dynasty Drive. We'd love to hear what your takes for the AFC East are. It's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, please.
You got anything else you want to put out there?
No, yeah, just like you said, please comment on the video, like the video. YouTube likes that stuff, so I think that's it, man. I think that's it on this division. It's going to be a fun year. I'm excited for it.
Same here. If you're listening in audio form, please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast or follow the podcast on whatever podcast platform you're using. Drop us a 5-star rating, leave a review, all that good stuff. If you're into it, if you have a couple seconds, it helps on the podcast platforms. We appreciate it. And if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and share that video with somebody else. Click subscribe, leave a comment, like it, turn on the notifications so you don't miss anything. We're going to have a ton of videos on the YouTube channel this year. Plenty of content for season long, plenty of content you're going to be able to go back to long after the season's over. You're not going to want to miss any of it. And we will be back next week with what division, Pete? Who are we talking next week?
We're going to talk about the NFC East.
NFC Beast, baby.
Yeah.